Okay, so, like, have you noticed that feeling? Like when something really cool comes up, could be a project at work, or maybe a chance to, like, really grow as a person, or maybe even something you've always wanted to do and it finally seems possible.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, like, right away, that little voice pops up in your head,
Mhm.
the one that's all worried and whispers stuff like, wait, can you actually pull this off?
That's so relatable. It's like this universal thing we all deal with,
Yeah.
this back and forth between wanting to do something awesome and then get them all freaked out about it. Doesn't matter if it's like a big life change, trying something creative, or just breaking out of your usual routine. That fear and self-doubt can really take over.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today, folks. We're not just going to tell you to ignore these feelings. We're going to talk about how to use them to actually move forward.
Yeah. It's like turning those things that hold you back into the very things that push you forward.
Right. Like, what if those feelings could actually help you grow?
Yeah.
So we're going to unpack all this, break down what we've learned from all the research we've done, and try to give you some real practical stuff you can use to understand and actually manage those feelings, especially when they start to feel overwhelming.
Totally. And one of the most interesting things that came up in our research is this idea that fear might actually be a good sign.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It could be a sign that you're about to do something big, something that could really change you for the better.
Kind of like when you have to give a presentation.
Yeah.
And you get those butterflies, right? Or even before you try something totally new, it's like this nervous energy almost makes your palms sweat. But it's also kind of exciting, you know?
Absolutely.
It means you're about to do something that matters, something that really pushes you. And we found that this comes up a lot in common situations, like when you're starting a new career, taking on a big project, or even just trying to improve yourself. It's that question of, am I really good enough for this?
Exactly. And the main thing that keeps coming up in the research is that getting over fear isn't about making it disappear completely. It's about learning how to face it head on.
Right, like that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly.
And while that sounds simple, there's actually a lot of truth to it.
Tons.
So in this deep dive, we're going to break it all down for you. We'll start by getting to the bottom of what fear and self-doubt really are and how they can stop you from doing what you want. Then we'll get into the good stuff, like how to see fear in a different light, how to believe in yourself, and how to get rid of those negative thoughts that hold you back. We'll also look at why taking action is so important, why having people to support you is crucial, how to not be afraid of failing, and how to basically change your whole mindset to set yourself up for success.
Awesome.
So let's kick things off. Let's talk about what fear and self-doubt really are, like, at their core.
Well, the research gave us some really cool insights into this. Fear, at its most basic level, is like a primal instinct. It's been hardwired into our brains over, like, thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
It's a survival thing. That fight or flight response we all have.
Yeah.
Our ancestors needed that to stay safe from real dangers in the wild.
Like running from a tiger or something.
Exactly. But the fears we deal with on a daily basis now are a bit different.
How
They're
so?
more psychological fears, like worrying about failing, being rejected, or what people think of us.
Makes sense.
And the interesting thing is, these modern fears aren't always about actual danger. Like, your mind can make up threats that aren't really there and make them seem way worse than they are.
So true.
Yeah. It's like our brains are always on high alert.
So it's like when you're scared to mess up at a new job,
Yeah, exactly.
you think it'll be this huge disaster, but in reality, most of the time, you just learn from your mistakes and move on.
Exactly. And those who've done really well,
Mm-hmm.
they're not the ones who never made mistakes.
Right.
They're the ones who learn the most from their mistakes.
Interesting. So what about self-doubt? How does that fit in?
So, while fear often comes from something we think is outside of us, self-doubt comes from within. It's when you don't believe in yourself and your abilities.
Like that nagging voice that tells you you're not good enough.
Precisely. That inner critic that can chip away at your confidence. And the tricky thing is, as the research shows, it comes from things like past experiences, pressure from society, and negative things we tell ourselves.
It's not like a tiger chasing you. It's all in your head.
Exactly. And the key thing to remember is that self-doubt is just a story we tell ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't reflect your true potential or your skills. It's just a story. And like any story, you can change it, especially with the right actions.
Which brings us to how fear and self-doubt team up to hold us back.
Oh yeah, they can be a real tag team.
Right. It's like they work together to create this paralysis. You're scared to even start, and then the self-doubt jumps in with all its negativity.
Totally. And it creates this barrier that feels impossible to overcome.
Yeah. One of the biggest ways this duo limits us, as we found, is that fear keeps us stuck in our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Feel safe and familiar there.
Right. You know what to expect.
Exactly, but real growth rarely happens there. It's when we push ourselves beyond what's comfortable that we learn the most.
So true. And in the long run, staying stuck can be way worse than trying something new and maybe failing.
Because you miss out on so much.
You miss out on new skills, experiences, and that amazing feeling you get when you conquer a challenge. And self-doubt plays a big part in keeping us from taking those risks. It tells us you're not good enough, others can do it better, you're just going to fail anyway.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's important to remember is that self-doubt is just fear turned inward. It doesn't actually reflect your abilities. Even the most successful people have doubts. They just don't let those doubts stop them.
Right. So when we let fear and self-doubt choose for us, we end up missing out on so many opportunities.
Yeah, opportunities to learn, grow, and discover what we're really capable of. The road to success isn't always smooth. There will be bumps and uncertainties. But every step you take, no matter how small, is progress. Staying put because of fear or doubt just keeps you stuck.
So true. So how can we break free from that pattern? How do we change our relationship with fear?
This is where things get really exciting. It's about reframing fear, seeing it not as an enemy, but as something that can actually help us grow. It's about changing how we think about it.
Okay, I like that. So instead of seeing fear as this big, scary thing, we see it as a guide.
Exactly. Reframing means looking at it from a different angle. Instead of thinking, danger, run away, you start thinking, hey, this means I'm stretching myself and learning new things.
I love this. One of the sources described fear as a compass pointing toward your growth edge.
Right.
That's such a powerful image. It means that when we feel fear, it could mean we're about to do something really meaningful, something that will help us grow. It's not a stop sign, it's a signpost pointing us in the right direction.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to reframe fear is to actually do something even though you're scared.
So it's like doing the opposite of what your fear wants you to do.
Exactly.
Because usually when you're scared, you want to back off.
It's totally natural.
Yeah.
But each time you choose to act, even though you're afraid, you're telling your brain, fear doesn't control me, I'm in charge. And if you keep doing that, fear starts to have less power over you.
It's like facing your fears makes them less scary.
Precisely. And the more you take action, even small steps, the more you prove to yourself that you can handle things. That builds confidence and makes it easier to face the next scary thing.
So it's like this positive cycle.
Yes. Action proves you're capable, which boosts your confidence, which makes you more likely to take action again.
I like that.
And that leads to a major mindset shift, as the research shows. When you start to see fear as a sign of growth instead of danger, you approach challenges differently. You're more curious, more excited, instead of just hesitant.
So next time you feel that familiar fear creeping in, what should we do?
Lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to tell me? What opportunity might be hiding behind it?
That's great advice. Okay, so we've talked about fear. Let's talk about the power of believing in yourself.
Yes. This is like the foundation for everything else. If you don't believe in yourself, it's way harder to deal with fear and doubt.
Absolutely. And what we've learned is that self-belief is key to overcoming fear and self-doubt. When you truly believe you can do something, you're more likely to take risks and move forward with confidence, even when things are uncertain.
Couldn't agree more. And self-belief isn't something that just appears overnight. It's something you build and strengthen over time.
Like a muscle.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not about being born confident. It's about developing that confidence through experiences. And one of the best ways to do that, as we've seen, is to recognize and celebrate your past successes. Take the time to appreciate what you've already accomplished, no matter how small it might seem now.
It's easy to forget about those little wins, isn't it?
Totally. But they all add up and show you that you've been resilient and capable in the past.
Right, because every time you've overcome a challenge, learned a skill, or achieved something positive, those are all proof that you're capable.
Exactly. It's like collecting evidence for your own awesomeness.
Love it.
And just as important as celebrating those wins is dealing with the negative self-talk.
Oh, yeah, that inner critic can be brutal.
It can be relentless, always saying things like, you're not good enough. What we've learned is that these negative voices are often just echoes of old fears and beliefs that we've internalized.
So how do we quiet that inner critic?
One powerful technique is to use positive affirmations.
Okay, tell me more.
It's about consciously countering those negative thoughts with positive and empowering statements like, I am capable, I am learning and growing, I am worthy of achieving my goals.
Sounds like positive self-talk.
Exactly. And the key is to be consistent. The more you repeat these positive truths to yourself, the more you start to believe them, and they start to replace those old negative tapes.
Like reprogramming your mind for positivity.
Precisely. And another tool that can be incredibly helpful is visualization.
Interesting. What's that?
It's about mentally rehearsing success. Picturing yourself achieving your goals and confidently handling any obstacles that come up. This mental practice strengthens your belief that you can actually do it. It's like practicing in your mind before you do it in real life.
Like a mental dress rehearsal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it builds your confidence and makes you feel more prepared to take action.
So believing in yourself isn't about being cocky or arrogant. It's about having that deep inner knowing that you have the skills and strength to handle whatever comes your way.
Absolutely. And that inner confidence makes you more resilient and less susceptible to fear and self-doubt.
Which brings us to something really important. Overcoming negative beliefs.
Yes. Those deep-seated beliefs can really hold us back without us even realizing it.
Right, they're like invisible chains.
Their research explains that our beliefs shape how we see the world, including ourselves. And unfortunately, a lot of people carry around negative beliefs from their past experiences, societal pressures, or just a fear of not measuring up.
Like what kind of beliefs?
Like, I'm not good enough, I don't have the skills, I'll never be successful. And these beliefs can feel so real, so true.
I know exactly what you mean.
But as we've seen in the research, they're just stories we've come to believe. They're not necessarily facts.
So how do we unlearn those stories?
Well, the first step is to simply become aware of them.
Because we often don't even realize they're there.
Exactly. They become these automatic negative thoughts that pop up without us even trying.
Right, like a default setting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So start paying attention to those thoughts, notice when they appear, and then challenge them. Ask yourself, is this really true? What proof do I have?
Put those beliefs on trial.
Exactly. And you might find that there's not much evidence to support those negative beliefs.
So once we've identified and questioned these limiting beliefs, what's next?
The next step is reframing. It's about consciously replacing those unhelpful thoughts with empowering ones.
Okay, how do we do that?
So for instance, that ingrained feeling of I'm not good enough,
Yeah.
you can actively reframe that as I am capable of learning and improving. Or the thought, I'll never succeed. That can become success is a journey and I'm taking steps every day.
It's like choosing a new, more positive story for yourself.
Exactly. It takes effort and practice, but it can actually change your brain for the better over time.
That's amazing.
The research also talks about how important your environment is in this process, the need for positive influences in your life.
Makes sense. It's hard to be positive when you're surrounded by negativity. Right?
Totally. Surround yourself with supportive people, mentors who inspire you, role models who have overcome similar challenges. Their stories and positivity can help you break free from your own limitations and see things in a new light.
So, overcoming negative beliefs is a multi-step process. Becoming more aware of your thoughts, challenging them, replacing them with empowering ones, and surrounding yourself with positive influences. It's all about shaping your inner world to boost your confidence and reduce the power of fear and self-doubt.
Absolutely. And this inner work sets the stage for something truly crucial: taking action.
Yes. Because thinking about it is only half the battle, right?
Exactly. You can do all the mental work you want, but at some point, you have to actually get out there and do something.
Right. Make it happen.
And the research we've looked at is very clear. Action is the ultimate antidote to fear and self-doubt. It's through doing that you prove to yourself what you're capable of and break down those mental barriers. And it doesn't have to be some huge life-changing leap. Even small actions can make a big difference.
I can definitely relate to that. It can feel so overwhelming to think about making big changes, but small steps feel way more manageable.
Totally. It's not about waiting until you're completely fearless before you start. In fact, perfectionism can actually stop us from doing anything at all. People who achieve amazing things, they don't wait for the perfect moment.
Right. They just go for it.
Exactly. They act despite their fears and learn along the way. Imperfect action is way more valuable than perfect inaction.
So it's about starting wherever you are with what you have, even if it feels a little messy at first.
Exactly.
Like sending that email you've been putting off, making that phone call, signing up for that class. Those small steps are victories in themselves.
And they create momentum. That momentum builds your confidence and makes it easier to keep going.
It's like a snowball effect.
Exactly. Action leads to success, which boosts your belief, which leads to more action. And the more you act, the less power fear and self-doubt have over you. You build a track record of overcoming challenges and learn that fear isn't a wall, it's more like a hurdle you can jump over.
So true. And while taking action is essential, it's also important to remember that you don't have to go it alone.
Right. And that's where a strong support system comes in. Having people in your corner can make all the difference.
Totally. Like having people to cheer you on and also catch you if you fall.
Exactly. The research consistently highlights that having a support system makes dealing with fear and self-doubt much easier.
It makes so much sense.
These people can encourage you, give you a different perspective when you're stuck, and even keep you accountable for your goals. When those doubts start creeping in and telling you you're not good enough, having people who believe in you can really help drown out those voices.
Right. Like a team of cheerleaders rooting for you.
Exactly. And this support can come from friends, family, mentors, or even people you admire who have faced similar challenges. And having someone to keep you accountable is super important too.
How so?
Well, when you know someone is aware of your goals and expects you to follow through, it's more likely you'll push through those moments of fear or resistance. Having someone to check in with, whether it's a coach, a mentor, or a friend, makes a huge difference.
I think that's true for a lot of things in life, not just this. And the research also mentions how a good support system can give you much needed perspective.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you're caught up in your own worries and fears, it can be really hard to see things clearly.
You're too close to it.
Exactly. Talking to someone you trust can help you see things more objectively, to see if your fears are maybe bigger than they need to be.
They can be like a voice of reason.
Precisely. And they can offer reassurance and practical advice when you need it most.
So what about those of us who don't have a strong support system right now?
Well, the research says, start building one. Seek out communities or groups that share your interests and goals. Online forums, networking events, personal development groups, these are all places where you can connect with people who get it and can support you.
You're not alone in this.
Not at all.
So while a support system isn't a magic solution, it provides strength and encouragement that makes facing those fears much less scary. And as you take more action and build that support system, you're bound to stumble at some point. You're bound to experience failure.
Failure. Ugh, such a loaded word, right? But the research encourages us to see it differently.
How so?
It says we should move away from seeing failure as the end of the world and instead embrace it as a chance to learn and grow.
That's tough to do. We're not wired to like failure, are we?
Definitely not. But our first reaction to failure isn't usually positive, is it?
No way. It feels awful.
Right. There are all those negative emotions, feeling inadequate, ashamed, disappointed, frustrated.
The whole package.
And these negative feelings can feed our fear and self-doubt in the future.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Totally. But the key, as the research points out, is to reframe failure as feedback.
Okay, I like that. Feedback, not failure.
Exactly. It's a chance to learn what didn't work, adjust your approach, and try again with more knowledge and better strategies.
So it's not about purposely messing up. It's about accepting that mistakes are a natural part of trying new things, especially when we're pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones.
Right. And instead of beating yourself up and thinking I'm a failure, the focus should be on what you learned.
Like, what went wrong and how can I do better next time?
Exactly. It's about extracting valuable knowledge from the experience.
So embracing failure isn't about being happy when we fail. It's about choosing to see the good in it, the lessons we can learn.
Precisely. And the more you do that, the less power failure has over you. You're less afraid to take risks because you know that even if you don't succeed, you'll still learn something valuable and grow from it. It makes you more resilient and adaptable.
Failure becomes less of a threat and more of a teacher.
Yes. And remember, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's often a part of it. It's the courage to keep going after you've fallen that really leads to growth and achievement.
We've talked about a lot today. How do we pull all of this together into something we can actually use to make lasting changes?
It comes down to cultivating a new mindset for success.
Okay.
The research emphasizes that overcoming fear and self-doubt for good requires changing how you think about yourself, how you face challenges, and how you see setbacks.
So it's not just a few quick tips, it's a whole new way of thinking.
Exactly. It's like creating a new internal framework for achieving your goals. And one of the key elements of this mindset is developing a growth mindset.
Growth mindset. Okay, so what's that?
The research says that a growth mindset means believing that your abilities and intelligence aren't fixed. They can be developed and improved through effort, learning, and persistence. This encourages you to embrace challenges as opportunities to grow, to see obstacles as temporary, and to view mistakes as valuable lessons.
So instead of thinking, I'm just not good at this, you think, I might not be good at this yet, but I can learn and get better with practice.
Exactly. It shifts the focus from limits to possibilities. Another crucial part of this new mindset is self-compassion.
Being kind to ourselves. That's so important.
The research really emphasizes that when we're struggling with fear and self-doubt, it's easy to be super critical of ourselves. We judge ourselves way harsher than we'd ever judge a friend.
I'm definitely guilty of that.
Self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you give a friend who's going through a tough time. It's about accepting your imperfections, forgiving yourself for mistakes, and offering yourself encouragement instead of criticism.
It's like being your own best friend.
Exactly. And lastly, the research highlights the importance of having a clear sense of purpose.
Your why.
Yes. Understanding what truly motivates you and gives meaning to your efforts can give you amazing strength and resilience when you face those inevitable moments of fear and doubt. It keeps you focused and motivated, even when things get hard.
So a mindset that embraces growth, practices self-compassion, and is driven by a clear purpose that seems to be the secret sauce for overcoming fear and self-doubt. It's about choosing to see challenges as opportunities, failures as lessons, and successes as proof of your strength.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that inner strength that lets you not only face your fears, but use them to fuel your journey.
So wrapping things up, we've seen that fear and self-doubt are normal, but they don't have to control us. By understanding them, reframing them, believing in ourselves, changing negative thoughts, taking action, building a support system, embracing failure, and developing a growth mindset with self-compassion and purpose, we can overcome these challenges and use them to become even better versions of ourselves.
Absolutely. It's a continuous journey of self-discovery and growth.
And on that note, here's something to think about. How might facing just one small fear this week spark unexpected growth and possibilities in your life? What could that first, maybe slightly scary step be for you?
That's a great question for everyone to consider.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Until next time, keep pushing those boundaries and growing. We believe in you.